Okay, we're back at Giza, in the necropolis, the city of the dead, here among the Mastabas. These are the low, flat tombs for the noblemen, and early on they were used for kings and pharaohs, but obviously the pharaohs eventually got much grander accommodations in the afterlife. But the mastaba remains important, and most of the tombs here at Giza are mastabas. So these are for the workers and the engineers and craftsmen that built the place. So let's get started with this tour. The origin of the pyramid.
Welcome to the origin of the pyramid. The origin of the word pyramid is controversial. Most believe that it originates with the Greek word pyramis, which referred to a bread of conical shape. Life and death in ancient Egypt were modeled on the cycle of the sun. The perfect shape of the smooth-faced pyramid became associated with the metaphor of the pharaoh transformed into one of the sun's rays in death. Pyramids represented the Benben, the primordial mound of the Heliopolitan creation myth. These stories permeated every aspect of Egyptian life to a greater or lesser extent.
So, this is a picture of Heliopolis, detail on Benben. So I think this temple is meant to have a representation of the Benben stone. The Benben stone is the primordial mound of earth that rose from the waters of creation at the beginning of time. So it's like the beginning of life on earth. And it's said that Khnum, who is Ra, he's born of the waters of creation. He's born of the chaos of the goddess Neith. She's a water goddess of creation. And they're husband and wife, Khnum and Neith. But Khnum is the order born from the chaos. He's the burning ember of Ra. He was almost snuffed out by the waters of creation, but he burns a hole in the ocean, in this chaotic cosmic ocean, burns a hole in it, and that creates the heavens. And then from the surface of the waters rose the Benben stone, and then Khnum came down and settled on the Benben stone and began crafting with his clay, and that's how he creates humanity. He crafts us with his clay. And it's like a co-creation myth along with Neith, where she weaves her thread of life into us. So Father God crafts us with his clay, Mother Goddess weaves the thread of life into us. So that's the Heliopolitan creation myth, and that's the significance of the Benben stone. And mastabas, and pyramids too, they're representations of the Benben stone. So when you die, you get buried back under the primordial mound, if you're lucky. Not everyone got a mastaba. Obviously, this would be for important people.
During the pre-dynastic period, the development of funerary practices was different, depending on whether one was located in Lower Egypt or Upper Egypt. Well before the pyramid, there was the burial pits. It is on the site of Merimde Beni Salame in Lower Egypt that we find the oldest funerary site, dating back to 5000 BCE. Study of the tombs revealed that the bodies of the deceased were deposited in a shallow grave, in a fetal position. Though a few objects were recovered from these graves, they offered no insight as to the social class of those interred within.
So that's pretty cool. The oldest funerary sites in Egypt go back 7,000 years. This picture is from 3rd millennium BC, so 5,000 years. Mummified. Buried with some objects. Because we're all sad that we have to die. Even though this world is horrible, none of us want to die.
In Upper Egypt, pre-dynastic practices are easier to study, but reveal more complex funerary rites. They are divided into two cultural phases, Badarian and Nagada. The Badarian phase ranged from 4400 BCE to 3800 BCE. Small necropolises were discovered on the outskirts of villages, revealing the emergence of a funerary cult. The bodies of the deceased were lowered into an oval grave and covered with goat or gazelle skins. items needed in everyday life were added alongside the body.
Yeah, so the Badarian phase, 4400 BC to 3800 BC. The Sahara was still green at this time, to put that in perspective. It's not until around 3000 BC that ends, and it becomes the desert that we know today. But back then it would have been green, and this is when we're seeing small necropolises, so small cities of the dead. Official areas on the outskirts of towns or villages set aside for the dead. And we're seeing, burial goods left with them, items used for everyday life. So that indicates that they thought that the dead would live after life and would need these possessions. And that's something that is also true in Egyptian practices. They think the dead are going to get up and walk around, and they're going to use the stuff that's left in these tombs.
During the three Nagata periods ranging from 4000 BCE to 3510 BCE, funerary practices evolved in complexity. The shape of tombs changed from oval to rectangular, mimicking the homes of the living. The size of the burials increased and funerary items became more stylized and numerous. Tombs gained complexity with masonry, wooden veneers, or raw bricks added to strengthen the structures. In time, socially stratified necropolises emerged. For example, in Hierakonpolis, the elite and commoners had separate necropolises.
The elite were like, I don't want to be buried next to you. You stink. Yeah, that's interesting, though, that it changes from oval to rectangular, mimicking the homes of the living. So again, they think people are going to come alive after death, that death is just another phase of life, or it's the life that comes after. I don't know.
The term mastaba, meaning massive bench in dialectal Arabic, refers to a form of funerary architecture that was present in Egypt from the Archaic period to the Middle Kingdom. An evolution of the burial pit, mastabas were generally composed of two parts. A structure was built above the ground in the form of a massive rectangle with stepped walls, and a subterranean burial chamber was located underneath. Smaller mastabas often surrounded the much larger tomb of the king. These generally held the remains of the king's relatives and courtiers.
Yeah, so, and these would also be temples, because they venerate the dead, they worship the dead, especially if they're very high ranking. Like, definitely they worship pharaohs, but even some of the viziers, the architects, Imhotep helps design the pyramids, and he gets deified as a god. So they would come to these burial chambers, and they would make offerings, they would pray. Like, there's a door here for a reason. You would go here. This would be a place for the living too. And and then the dead would be buried below, because again, you're being buried under a representation of the Ben stone, and then these shafts here would allow the spirit to travel out. There's ideas that you're going to become like a being of light, and you're going to rise up and go up to the heavens and go up to the stars and be with the gods and stuff. So we got to leave these little openings here so that you can get out. Let's go inside the mastaba.
The arrangement of the substructure of the mastaba evolved during the course of the Old Kingdom. From the 5th dynasty onwards, mastabas often featured multi-roomed substructures, with sometimes up to 30 rooms. Also, the quantity and quality of decorated surfaces increased noticeably, as well as the number of statues found within.
Yeah, 30 rooms. Think about that. That's like a mansion for the dead. It's a whole other period of your life. Okay, 30 rooms. And many of those rooms are going to be used by the living when they come to worship you, depending on how, high status you are. But yeah, 30 rooms. Crazy. And they get more and more elaborate. So the 5th dynasty here, that's after the Great Pyramids. Great Pyramids were built in the 4th dynasty. So the 4th, 5th dynasty, this is like the height of pyramid and tomb building. Later on, the tombs, they get buried like in the Valley of the Kings, which are just like rock-cut tombs, which are more simple compared to this stuff. But this was the golden age of the massive tombs. It sucks that I took too long making this video. It's already nighttime, so now it's dark in here.
The 6th dynasty would see art used to its utmost. The entire surface of a mastaba would be covered in scenes of daily life, illustrating the prosperity of those lucky enough to comfortably spend eternity near the pyramid of a pharaoh. The best example of this type of mastaba is the tomb of Meroruka in Saqqara.
That's a badass name. Meroruka. Meroruka. That's it, man. I'm naming my firstborn son Meroruka. But you can see like how elaborate this is. Every inch is covered in writings and pictures and scenes of different, stories, and it's just crazy. And and it would tell like the story of their lives. It would tell like, final words or, things that the living wanted to leave behind for posterity. It would have prayers to the gods, incantations, lots and lots of like spells, like, oh, Osiris protect me, Ra protect me, Horus protect me, all these, calling out to all the deities, like, guide me in the afterlife, take care of me. Pretty cool. And thousands of years ago, man, this is how they died. But anyways, come back next time and we'll start to get to the pyramids, I think. I'm saving the best for last, so we're getting to the Great Pyramids in a few videos. All right, see you then.